Very warm welcome to the Thursday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. It is the 3rd of October, and we have got some very interesting times coming up with regards to ex-hurricane hits on the UK and Ireland. It pretty much happens more or less every year, every other year, where we get indirect or direct hits from systems that originated in the tropics, became extratropical. Once they enter colder than 26C waters, increase the westerly shear, wants to catch up with the jet stream, etc., etc. They transition from warm core tropical systems to cold core extratropical baroclinic areas of low pressure. So that transition will happen. The question mark is Hurricane Kirk currently a major system at 125 miles per hour? Is it going to make a hit on the UK or Ireland, or will it drop south into Spain, Portugal, or France? Due to an area of very strong high pressure up over Greenland, we know that this system is going to run north and then take a turn to the east. My hunch would be somewhere in northern France, southern UK is going to be where the system will make a kind of final landfall. Obviously, it's not made any landfall yet because it's remained out over the open waters of the Atlantic Basin. But first and foremost, we know that we don't look at operational or deterministic runs and take them as gospel. We look at the trends, we look at the ensembles. They give you a better handle on the future outcome. But and even ensembles, they do change and chop and change. That is what I'm trying to say. So, but this is the GFS at 18 UTC next Thursday. It has a 962 millibar ex-Hurricane Kirk over the UK and Ireland, bringing wind and rain. Looking at the ECM model, and you can see here that the system is centered very close to what the GFS has at around 968 millibars, again over the southern UK, bringing probably the strongest winds to France, heaviest rainfall across the channel into southern and central England. We don't want to see much more in the way of rainfall, and unfortunately that is going to be the case. This is going to continue to be a fairly wet pattern. Just look at the block over the North Atlantic and Greenland here. So once this system, if it gets close to this general idea that the ECM and the GFS have, we need to watch out as it pulls to the east. We are going to open the door to some potentially pretty cold air, actually. We may even see, dare I say, snow potential. Obviously, it's October. We've got a long way to go, but this isn't getting anything. I'm not getting carried away, and I'm not wanting to hype anything up here, but I'm looking at the prospects. I'm looking at the potentials down the road. So before we look at the nuts and bolts in terms of the prospects of Kirk, we do have other systems in the Atlantic as well that we will briefly look on. But I wanted to revisit this tweet that I shared in yesterday's post. Be sure to check that out. Yesterday there was actually quite a lot of interesting things that I talked about with regards to the extremity of the month of September just gone, and the extremes in terms of temperature and rainfall that we've seen, and the big flip also between August and the month of September. I noticed the lower amounts of views on that video yesterday, probably because I'm not talking about snow or anything particularly extreme coming up. But I want you to check that out if you haven't already done so, because there is quite a lot of interesting things. I go on and look at the CDAS data, looking at the big swings between 12 to 14 above average to 12 to 14 below average, the records that were achieved both in heat and cold, and obviously the exceptional rainfalls that we've seen. 10 counties in England seeing this wet as September, 1 or 2 counties experiencing this wettest calendar month on record. Pretty astonishing stuff, really, when you think about that. But I wanted to revisit, like I said, this tweet here because I kind of missed out one fundamental important aspect. Obviously, I mentioned the fact that we went from a record strong positive NAO to a record strong negative NAO between August and the month of September. But this was also the biggest month-to-month reversal in the NAO since November into December 1978. Now, this is off the World Climate Service. Be sure to follow them if you're on Twitter or X. Don't like to really use the term X because it's always Twitter to me. But I want you to give them a follow if you're interested in stuff like this, because they really do put out some very fascinating tweets and information. But to say that the best analogues actually to current times is August, September 1998, a similar Enzo, although we don't have quite as strong of a La Nina development as we did, I think, in 1998. But we also had a similar situation in 1976. So this is the biggest month-to-month reversal in the NAO between record positive to record negative between August and September since 1978. I just wanted to kind of share that with you real quick. Looking at the latest of the NHC, there is Hurricane Kirk, now currently a 948 millibar system moving in a northwesterly direction at 10 miles per hour. Current sustained winds at 125 miles per hour, and it is going to continue to strengthen, I believe, over the next 24 hours or so. So you can see here the system is out over about as central in the Atlantic as you'll get. It's going to take a turn more towards the north and then a northeasterly turn. But you notice here the NHC all the way out to 8 a.m. next Tuesday, it still has this system as a hurricane to the north of the Azores Islands here. So this is away up at the latitude pretty much of Biscay and Nova Scotia. So this is quite a far north position to be a full-fledged hurricane, but it will be undergoing some rapid transition here. If you look at the sea surface temperature, this is the current actual SSTs, not anomalies. And you can see here that we see the 26, 27 Celsius line go up to about the latitude of the Carolinas and also Northwest Africa. But it looks as if the modelling and NHC has this system remaining as a hurricane even as it moves into 19 to 21 Celsius waters. So obviously sometimes atmospheric dynamics allows these systems to maintain warm core. Sometimes it doesn't transition instantaneously as it enters the colder waters that you would typically expect. You need 26.5 degrees roughly to support a full-fledged, fully tropical system. So this system is expected to go into cooler waters, engage with more hostile westerly conditions. Therefore, the system will transition eventually somewhere to the in and around the Azores. I think it's going to transition from warm core to cold core. Then it will develop frontal systems. It's then going to then kind of weaken and then actually re-strengthen as a baroclinic low. So instead of it being the warm waters beneath that's fueling the system with a low sheared environment within its surroundings, what ends up happening is this system then changes its dynamics within the core, and it's actually driven by temperature differential, warm, cold, the jet stream fueling it as it crosses from cold, from warm side of the jet, enters maybe the right rear entrance region, or the right entrance region, so to say, of the jet, and then it moves into the cold side of the jet on the north side. That can quite often help baroclinicity and a deepening of the circulation, and that is possibly what will happen with Kirk. But the big fundamental question mark is that big block over the North Atlantic and Greenland here will force that eastward turn. Also, it's got a jet stream that's quite far to the south as well. So therefore, it's got every chance that it may even move to the south of the UK and then move into mainland Europe as opposed to the southern UK. It depends on the position of the jet, the block across Greenland. There's a lot of different factors to consider here, and we have a long way to go. This is only Thursday this week. We're talking about a week in advance. So obviously there is a lot of room for change and fluctuation. But you can see with the Hurricane Kirk, it is very well organized actually. We've got a very strong core of deep convection surrounding a well-defined eye. So there is a possibility that the system actually becomes a Cat 4 system, but thankfully this is not going to have any direct influence on any land areas as a major hurricane, but nonetheless rather interesting how much strength this thing is gaining. Looking at the latest GFS Ensemble track forecast, you can see here that it remains in the Central Atlantic makes that turn as it feels the jet that's displaced to the south due to that ridge over Greenland here, and then it's going to make a beeline. The majority of the models actually take it anywhere from the northern UK to the northwest of France. That is the kind of spread in the model output here. This is the various members of the model here, and you can see the mean track takes it generally up towards Wales, the south of Ireland, southeast Ireland. And look at the pressure, 955 millibars. So that is not a too shabby area of low pressure. Looking at the multi-model run here, this is, I think, the spread in various models all generally take it in the same kind of direction as the GFS ensemble. So so this is going to be an interesting watch, I think, as we progress through the course of the weekend and into early next week. So I showed you the GFS and the ECM deterministic output, both putting this system into the southern UK sometime between late Wednesday and early Thursday of next week here. We've got that strong area of high pressure over the North Atlantic and Greenland. We've got northerly winds. If you look at the 850s here, we do have some fairly cold air for the time of the year getting drawn south. On the backside, it's essentially the remnants of Kirk is going to allow this pull of some early season Arctic air. This would be the third wave, I think, maybe third, maybe fourth wave of Arctic air into the UK pattern. It is a transient situation here. More areas of low pressure will try and barrel in, and then we're probably like we've seen so much recently, this kind of back and forth in terms of temperature swings. But that fundamental block over the North Atlantic and Greenland is going to continue to keep the jet further south, wettest conditions, France, southern UK, drier across the north, and this kind of back and forth type of regime. So again, there's no point in pinpointing details in terms of depth, exact position, strength of the system itself. We are likely to see severe gales if it makes an approach in the southern UK as a kind of 960s, possibly low 970 millibar area of low pressure. It still contains a lot of heat from the tropics. So therefore, we are going to see enhanced rainfall, for example, likely gale or severe gale force winds. And we've seen this movie several times over here in the UK. One couple of recent storms that really stand out to me is ex-Hurricane Ophelia. That was the strongest major hurricane furthest east and northeast, I believe, on record back in 2017. And then also ex-Hurricane Katia. I was down in the Ayrshire coast, almost getting blown off my feet from that system back in September of 2011. So remnant systems from ex-hurricanes are a part of this time of the year pattern across Europe when you've got the right situation in place. And all this heat transfer from tropics up into the temperate regions, we need to keep a close eye on what's going on with regards to the Arctic Oscillation and North Atlantic Oscillation. It may enhance blocking later down the road. And we are going to look at the polar vortex, by the way, because there was a couple of other interesting factors with regards to the strat warming that we're continuing to see going on at the moment. And it's talking about very high levels of ozone within the stratosphere, which may help with the warming of the stratosphere, and then obviously the prospects possibly going forward. So stay tuned over the next day or so. We are going to look at more stuff with regards to the polar vortex and some of the longer range stuff also. I want to end today's video by looking at, have I covered everything? Because I always forget something. We've looked at the various model tracks, all generally taking it into the same kind of general vicinity. The Mann-Julian oscillation we'll look at in the next day or so as well, trying to avoid repeating things in these videos, so keeping it fresh, keeping it interesting day by day for everybody, rather than just saying the same old story, because it becomes a little bit monotonous. But this is an interesting article here. This is a piece off Wikipedia showing the list of European tropical cyclones. And I'm going to just very, very quickly go through this, because this time of the year always interests me. August, September, October is always a time where Europe can often get hit by ex-tropical systems. Now, I've already explained the transition between fully tropical and extratropical. The dynamics and the structure kind of changes. The fuel source changes as well. But the effects of the tropical cyclones in Europe and extratropical remnants, including strong winds, heavy rainfall, and rare instances of tornadoes and snowfall. So again, snowfall can't be ruled out with Kirk if it makes some sort of a southerly track across the UK next week. But only two modern cyclones, this is quite interesting, only two modern cyclones are officially regarded as directly impacting the European mainland. Now, obviously, we've got warmer sea surface temperatures down across Spain, Portugal, much colder conditions across around in the west coast of France and the UK and Ireland as well. So it's no surprise really that any possibility of a direct influence of a fully or subtropical system would be more across southwestern Europe, where you've got slightly warmer sea surface temperatures compared to the UK and Ireland. But they are Hurricane Vince in 2005, which struck southwestern Spain as a tropical depression, and then subtropical storm Alpha in 2020, which made a landfall in northern Portugal at peak intensity. It is possible that Hurricane Debbie in 1961 may have been tropical still when it made a landfall in northwestern Ireland, which is quite interesting, but this is disputed, and I would imagine it would be a push to see that being the case. It is believed that hurricane struck Europe in 1842. Atlantic hurricanes in the subtropical latitudes north of the Cape Verde region generally do not form east of 30 degrees west, and those that do typically continue to the west. So storms can move around the Bermuda High. We're seeing it at the moment. The core of the high within the mid-latitude Atlantic, or subtropical portions of the Atlantic, should I say, is generally focused over towards the Azores as opposed to Bermuda. We've got a stronger wheel of high pressure that is typically positioned where it is, but it's strongest the further east you go, and therefore that is the reason why we're seeing Kirk take that north track and then a bend getting deflected with the south displaced jet to the east. But the question mark is, where's that final landfall point? But that it kind of explains quite a lot with regards to the reasons why they take certain tracks. But I wanted to look at the remnant systems in recent times. So we'll look at the 2000s here. Back in August 24th, 2000, an extra tropical remnants of Hurricane Alberto crossed western Iceland with gale force winds. What is a couple of standout ones that I want to kind of talk about. In 2002, October 23rd, an extratropical storm absorbed by Hurricane Kyle and later passed near the British Isles, causing one death due to rough seas. Let's continue to skip through here. A couple of interesting kind of standout past events. We'll kind of skip a little bit further. So former Ophelia moved across the Faroe Islands back on September 22nd, 2005. Then obviously we've seen the effects of recent Ophelia back in 2017 make quite a significant impact in the UK and Ireland in particular, actually, in October 2017. But back in September 22nd, we had Ophelia of 2005 move across the Faroe Islands. Skipping forward further here, we had Gordon, September 21st, 2006, became extratropical, moved off the west coast of Portugal and proceeded to pass just to the north of the Spanish province of Galicia before turning to the north and looping off Western Ireland here. So, like I said, it is extremely common August through even November to see the remnants of hurricanes and tropical storms make an influence. This one particularly stands out. September 12th, 2011. It was obviously the name Katrina before it was disregarded. It became Katia. Katia replaced Katrina, moved across northern Scotland, producing strong gusts of wind as much as 98 miles per hour at the top of Cairngorm summit. Winds left thousands of homes without power. Remember this very well. While heavy rain caused localised flooding, a fallen tree killed a bus driver in County Durham. So that was that. We had Leslie, September 2012, struck Iceland with gusty winds. And then we move on to Ophelia. I want to talk quickly about Ophelia. Then we're obviously getting into Medicaid time of the year as well within the Mediterranean, and obviously with record warm waters, we need to watch this. So October 16th and 17th, 2017. Also remember this very well. The remnants of Hurricane Ophelia hit Ireland, causing 3 deaths, power outages to Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Wales, with winds reaching almost 100 miles per hour. Over 1,000 homes were without power in Scotland, as well as causing 76 mile per hour wind gusts here. And like I said, I was just on the outskirts of Kirkintilloch during Ophelia, and back in 2011, I was down on the Ayrshire coast for ex-Hurricane Katia. But like I said, Ernesto, 2018, we had Helene, again, another Helene, 2018. We're probably never going to see Helene once again, which is not a bad thing. Hurricane Leslie in 2018, October. We had Michael, we had Gabrielle, Humberto, Lorenzo. So, yeah, this is quite common time for ex-tropical systems to make impact either directly or indirectly on Western Europe and the UK and Ireland. So anyway, that's it for today. Like, share and subscribe. I hope you're enjoying the content here in the channel, and we will be talking a little bit more about the prospects going forward with regards to the weather pattern. Got an area of low pressure to the west of the UK that's gathering strength. That's going to bring the return of wet and windy conditions, unfortunately, this upcoming weekend across the UK and Ireland. And then it's all eyes on Kirk next week. We're going to be looking at the polar vortex. We're going to be looking at the MJO. We're going to be looking at winter as well in the coming days to come. So stay tuned. See you next time with more. Bye for now.